Hey everyone, welcome to TPUSA Live. I'm John Root with a brand new haircut sitting next to this guy. Looks like you got a brand new haircut too. Jobob, how you doing?
I'm very cheap. So my wife cuts my hair like once a week, and she actually does a pretty good job.
Wow,
but
she
also,
does.
I've been making her do it for the last 4 years since we've been married, and the first couple of years were rough. Yeah.
Way to go, Crystal. You've really done a good job.
I appreciate it. Thanks, babe.
Makes me want to get married.
Yeah.
Maybe we got to find someone that's a hairstylist.
That's the whole purpose of getting married, free haircuts.
I'm going to save so much money, I can't wait. But hey, you know how we kick it off. You and Events Daily with Jack Posobiec. We're going to start with this. So Amazon's actually removing Black Lives Matter Incorporated from their charity platform.
Why is that, John?
Because obviously they don't use the funds like they say they will. And it's a Marxist organization that should not be supported whatsoever. And then also, another thing too, you probably heard, is they use that money to build $1 million homes and buy real estate for themselves.
No. Is that what the founders of BLM do with that money?
I thought it was for something good.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
We've been saying this for years, people.
Isn't it crazy? Day after day, something that was conspiracy theory a couple years ago, is now truth. People are waking up all over the place. It's going to be a great show here on Mets Daily. There's another bit that I know we need to touch on and tease for Jack's show.
Yeah, this Quintez Brown story is fascinating. If you don't know anything about it, I'm not going to spoil it because I'm sure Jack will tell you much more in a much better, more concise way than I will, but stick around for that because that is a fascinating story. It ties in with the whole BLM thing.
Also, Yellowstone actor, one of the biggest actors in that show, saying, I'm refusing to get vaccinated and I'm going to boycott the SAG Awards. So a very, very good stance there. Obviously, people are fighting against vaccine mandates every single day from the top down.
Yeah.
Also, we're fighting against vaccine and mask mandates. You were just at the No Force Mask rally out there in Chicago.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's crazy to see, I talked about this earlier, it is crazy to see the wide swath of people that stuff attracts. There are people from every background, culture, race, ethnicity, all coming together at that Charlie Kirk rally yesterday, the no mask mandates, to protest basically what seems to be right.
Yeah. No Force Mask. That is a brand new website that we just launched, tpusa.com/mask. Check it out. Also, we're going to be sitting on the couch. I got you there. We got Stephen MAGA Hulk Davis is going to be there.
Nice.
Drew Hernandez, brand new TPUSA contributor.
Oh,
I know.
yeah.
It
He's
was
like brand new. What was it, Monday?
Yep.
Is this his first time coming on as a contributor?
No, he was on yesterday.
Oh, okay,
you missed out yesterday, especially What in the World Wednesday.
Oh, no, I'm so sad I missed What in the World Wednesday.
Oh, it's going to be a great show, though. We're going to be talking about race relations in America, too. And I think it's such an important conversation, especially when we're in like Black History Month, and these are the kind of conversations I don't think you're really seeing anywhere else. And I think we have so many people from so many different backgrounds, races, that we're going to sit on the couch. Obviously, I'm the whitest guy on the couch.
We're actually talking about the relationship between me and John. That's the whole segment.
It's incredible.
And Stephen Davis.
It's incredible that we can all sit on these couches together, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be an awesome conversation about some of our own personal experiences and what we can do to bridge those gaps and make sure everything is not about race.
Yeah.
Seems like every single argument is dumbed down to that, and it's such a shame. Also, we have an exclusive story. This is out of Los Alamitos, California. This is the Pali Institute. So there is a camp I know the kids were going to, and with all this gender identity and nonsense of what you identify as, it's putting kids in danger. And that's what we'll tell you right now, but it's an exclusive story about how some of these kids felt unbelievably uncomfortable and what that led to, because a lot of times kids go to camp and they don't have their phones. Whoa. They don't have a way to contact the outside world, and they're put in dangerous situations. So exclusive story out of there. Also, we're going to introduce you to some of the newest members of the Professor Watchlist. And after that, our boy Pete Hegseth, what an absolute stud Pete is. I'll tell you what, I fanboy over Pete Hegseth every single day.
Every day?
every single day. There's not a day where I don't fanboy over Pete Hegseth. But we have his speech from AmericaFest. He's also looking fly in this nice little suit jacket, this blazer situation. It looks good. It's very Christmassy, very holiday.
They're very holiday.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
And then right after that, you got a brand new episode of Politics. She's going to be talking about accountability for Alec Baldwin. Some weirdos come for Candace Owens, and so much pop culture, of course, without the propaganda. But coming up next, we got Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec, Jobob, and I. We'll see you soon.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona.
El socialismo no funciona.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, powered by Turning Point USA. Massive, massive story today. First up, Black Lives Matter of Louisville has bailed out the suspect, the accused assassin, attempted assassin in the attempted murder of a Jewish mayoral candidate. Next, another BLM story. Amazon has kicked BLM out of their charity program as Clinton associates are taking on leadership roles in Black Lives Matter. Next, a new paper in Nature, a new study, discusses bat coronaviruses discovered in Laos, yet no furin cleavage site was found there. And then finally, a Yellowstone star is set to boycott the SAG Awards over the vaccine mandate. He's not getting it. All this and more ahead, Human Events Daily.
Property of the victim's residence. Once this is posted, HRP, no contact with employees and campaign staff.
Jennifer 631.
No contact with place of violation, no contact with the victim's residence. Okay, any violations of those, along with not making the future court dates, could cause the bond money to be forfeited. The bond money will be taxed if the case will be and only you will be able to get this back once the case is complete.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go.
So what you're seeing right there are actual images from the United States right now, the year 2022. Black Lives Matter, one of their funds in Louisville, has bailed out a Black Lives Matter activist who was just arrested and charged for taking shots at a Jewish candidate in Louisville. Now, what's interesting is that if you listen to the lawyer in all of this, they're not really contesting what happened. We don't know if there's video of this because it did take place in an office. However, this was an area where there were multiple people around. The suspect was immediately arrested, so tons of witnesses, obviously including the person, Craig Greenberg, who was shot at, and we're told that it almost hit him, struck his clothing. He said it struck his jacket, or I think his sweater he said he was wearing. And yet BLM comes in, $100,000 in bail, paid out, and you can actually see it on film. And so I'm gonna give credit here a random act of journalism that was done by the local reporters that actually followed BLM and went to the sheriff's office and went to the county and then actually has the video. So you're looking at actual video of BLM bailing out an attempted murderer. And then many people are saying, well, hold on a second, what's going on here? Why would BLM just get behind someone who's so obviously a criminal? Does this really seem like the first time that BLM has gotten behind a criminal and supported them? If you think it is, you haven't been paying attention. Well, here's the full story from WHAS 11. That's the ABC affiliate down in Louisville. The Louisville Community Bail Fund, supported by BLM Louisville, paid the $100,000 bond set for Quintez Brown Wednesday afternoon. The bail fund was posted for a man charged with the attempted murder of a mayoral candidate. He was let out on bail, right? Obviously a flight risk. And as far as we know, of course, Greenberg is still a public figure, so who's just out in the community. But we're told that he is going to be going on house incarceration. So as long as he doesn't leave his house, everything's going to be fine. But the January 6th defendants, they're not a leave out because they committed the even worse crime of walking around the U.S. Capitol without permission. So they walked around the U.S. Capitol without permission. They've been held for over a year without bail. But a guy who shoots at a Jewish candidate for office gets let out within 2 days. Shoots him on Monday, tries to shoot him on Monday, back out on the street on Wednesday. That is justice in the United States today. Makes sense, right? Makes a whole lot of sense. And by the way, BLM Louisville, people were going to them on Twitter and they said, why would we support you? Why would we do this when you just bailed out a guy who supported or shot at a government official? And BLM Louisville responds, actually, it was a candidate. Oh, so yeah, actually, it was a candidate. This is one of those things, folks, where when you talk about us being a country in decline, right? And then you look at this and you step back and look at it and say, yeah, we're a country in decline. We can't put criminals in jail. And even when we catch the criminals, we can't leave them there because our society is broken. People say, oh, the CCP is in decline, China's in decline, they're about to collapse. No, they're not the ones in decline. They're not the ones doing stuff like this. Could you imagine if BLM tried to do something like this in Shanghai or Chongqing or Beijing? Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Shoot a guy or try to shoot a guy and then you're back out on the street? No, not happening. No serious country would conduct itself this way. No serious society would conduct itself this way. And we used to be a serious country. We used to be a serious society, but now we are in collapse. And the fact that we cannot keep violent criminals off the street in the name of reform tells you everything. Well, Amazon, you know them. They're the most powerful company in the country, possibly in the world. They're practically the new U.S. government. They've got ties to the CIA, and also, of course, they own, or Jeff Bezos owns, the Washington Post. So one of the most powerful companies in the world, make no mistake. Amazon just removed Black Lives Matter from their charity platform amid growing concerns over lack of financial transparency. This is out of Epoch Times. They've removed them from Amazon Smile, from that program, over the financial transparency issues. Now, we talked about these issues last week. And what was going on is that they are not in compliance in multiple states now for their financial status. And if you are not in compliance for your financial status as a nonprofit in the states in which you are incorporated or where you have chapters, and if you raise $1 after that moment, you are now committing federal wire fraud. And Amazon knows that, and they don't want to be part of this thing. They don't want to be facilitated because, shocking, I know, it's absolutely shocking to think that Black Lives Matter would potentially be malfeasant in their handling of finances. I know, right? Nobody ever believed this. We definitely didn't see this coming. Who could have? Really, who could have? But now Amazon has dropped them. absolutely huge. So an Amazon spokesperson confirmed charitable organizations must meet the requirements outlined in our participation agreement to be eligible for Amazon Smile. Among eligibility requirements, organizations are required to be good standing in their state of incorporation and in the states and territories where they're authorized to do business. Organizations that don't meet the requirements listed in the agreement may have their eligibility suspended or revoked. Now, Amazon, of course, donated $10 million to social justice groups, including BLM, in 2020 at the height of the organization's popularity amid nationwide demonstrations. But now they're running around. They can't account for their finances, $60 million. Nobody seems to know who's in charge of it. Nobody seems to know where it's gone. And they're bailing out people in Louisville, and this is the Louisville chapter, and the finances are, of course, spread apart. They're bailing out people who are shooting at Jewish mayoral candidates. This is your country. This is the United States of America in decline. It's the U.S. in decline, right? You have decline, then you have collapse, then you have fall. So are we going to go on that progression, or are we going to do something about it? That's basically the situation. Well, fear not, let not your heart be troubled, because the saviors, the cavalry, are riding in. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Of course, it's Hillary Clinton. Former Secretary Hillary Clinton's associates are taking on now leadership roles in the overall BLM organization. For our friends at Post Millennial, recent filings from the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation have revealed that 2 close Hillary associates have taken on key roles at the organization as it continues to suffer a number of blows over leadership and finances. Who is this? Well, first of all, we've got Democratic lawyer Mark Elias. You remember Mark Elias? He's the guy that got all the rule changes done in the voting in 2020, and he's also the one that allowed the funding of the British ex-spy Christopher Steele's Trump dossier that served to create literally all of Russiagate. Well, we just found out that the Elias Law Group is now going to be running the books for the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation. Isn't that nice? Isn't that wonderful? And this, of course, is with New Mexico, Arizona, and Oakland that are listed as the addresses, courtesy of Elias Law Group. They also have an individual, and pulling up her name here, Minion Moore, who's going to be a new board member for BLM. She's a longtime associate of Clinton World, including serving as an assistant to President Bill Clinton and the director of White House political affairs. Afterwards, she went on to serve as the CEO of the Democrat National Committee. She's also been described as being on the executive council of the Clinton campaign, along with Huma Abedin, John Podesta, Robbie Mook, Jennifer Palmieri, and of course, everyone's favorite, Jake Sullivan. Jake Sullivan, who is now the Biden administration's national security advisor. Do you get it? Do you see how it's all connected? It's a big club, and you're not in it. It's a big club, and you're not in it. So here's Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, discussing BLM.
They were totally peaceful protesters. And what he was trying to do, as he often does, is to mischaracterize them and their behavior and their goals and lump them in with the tiny, tiny minority of people who took advantage of a tragic moment to loot and to steal and to vandalize, a tiny, tiny percentage. And he wanted to cast that over the millions of, very thoughtful, nonviolent, peaceful protesters.
Look, here's what's going on. The Clinton Foundation ran out of money because they were taking in money while she was Secretary of State. Julian Assange talks about this. He would say, he actually had that clip I posted the other day, went viral again, where he was saying that he looked into the Trump organization in Russia, couldn't find anything, said they were trying to do a deal, it didn't work out, but then he looked at the Clinton Foundation and said, whenever you wanted a decision from the Secretary of State, favorable decision, you donated to the Clinton Foundation. But that all dried up. Well, now they've got a new Clinton Foundation, and her new foundation is called the Black Lives Matter Global Network. Nice work if you can get it. Well, folks, Mike Lindell of MyPillow was attempting to get up to the Canadian border, was actually briefly detained along with RSBN's crew. They were turned back. They were trying to get 10,000 pillows, a truck full of them, up to the freedom fighters, the truckers of Ottawa. They were turned around at the border, and Mike Lindell was there with them. He was going to go to bring porters. This wasn't pillows. This wasn't weapons of mass destruction, okay? He wasn't running guns. He wasn't trafficking people. He was trying to, could you find a less, dangerous object in the entire world than literally soft pillows? That's what he was bringing. Soft pillows across the border, not allowed. That's what was blocked by the agents of Prime Minister Trudeau at the border. Understand what's going on. But the fight continues. The fight goes on. You have to put your shoulder to wheel, because every once in a while, there comes a time to stop talking and start acting. And that's why you go to mypillow.com, you use /Poso, you put in the promo code, you support the efforts of MyPillow, you support this man, you support what he's doing. He is, Mike Lindell, he is like the spirit animal of the freedom movement. I don't know if everybody understands that, but that's really who he is. Huge news in a study. I don't think anyone has picked up on this yet. Huge news that is now coming out of the University of Paris and the Institut Pasteur. So the Pasteur Institute of the University of Paris, a new study was just published in the journal Nature. Bat coronaviruses related to SARS-CoV-2 and infectious for human cells. Okay, interesting. So what's going on? Well, turns out that researchers, they're having trouble getting into China, as we all know. Lots of trouble, can't get in there, can't get into this Wuhan lab. Where did SARS-CoV-2 come from? How do we do research on it? Can't get there, what's happening? But if you remember, the cave where we're told these bats came from was Kunming. Well, Kunming is very close to the border between China and Laos. So they sent, this is actually very clever, they sent researchers into northern Laos and into the caves there to study the cave bats. And they did study the cave bats. And guess what? They found coronaviruses that were in this cave bat population. And they said, look, we've been told again and again that this thing was arisen from nature, right? That's what Dr. Fauci has been telling us all along. Naturally occurring, naturally occurring, naturally occurring. Don't look at that lab. Peter Daszak, EcoHealth Alliance. Don't look at the lab. Nothing to do with the lab. So they go to the bats. They say, okay, show us the bats where it came from. Where is the host population? Where is the original population? Where is patient zero? Where's the village, right? Where's the group of people, right, that got hit by this thing first? Can't find them. Doesn't exist. Why is that? So they go to Laos, check the coronaviruses. Guess what? They find them, but they're not the same coronaviruses. Similar, very similar, but what do they not have? A furin cleavage site. There's no furin cleavage site found. What the heck is a furin cleavage site? Don't listen to me. Let's listen to Nick Wade, a medical researcher and journalist who talks about this.
The specific sequence of amino acids that is recognized by furin, then your virus is going to have a much easier task of infecting human airway cells, because there'll be furin proteins all around to help cleave its spike protein, cutting off the S1 part, allowing the S2 part to deploy. So lo and behold, when you look at the SARS-2 virus, the most distinctive feature of it that comes out to any virologist is that right at the S1, S2 junction, just where it needs to have one, is a furin cleavage site. That's a sequence of amino acids that is recognized by furin. And the other remarkable feature is that SARS-2 is the only member of its viral family that has this site.
Okay, so you get that. The furin cleavage site is specifically found in SARS-CoV-2. But when you look at this new study, what does it say? Our findings, none of these bat viruses harbor a furin cleavage site in the spike. None. Not one was found in Laos. Now, is that dispositive? Of course not. It's not dispositive. So that doesn't prove that this thing came from gain of function of experiments in Wuhan. But again, we keep going, we keep doing research, and people are actually out there doing science in the field trying to figure this out. And they still haven't been able to find a pass-through species. But you know what we have found? A lab that won't give us answers.
Hey, I want to apologize to y'all for not being at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. I mean, no offense to anyone. I I'm not vaccinated, and it's a requirement to be vaccinated to be at the Screen Actors Guild Award ceremony. You have to be vaccinated with a booster shot and a negative COVID test within 48 hours, and got to wear a K95, 62, 43, 50, whatever kind of mask. And I'm not vaccinated. I will not get vaccinated. I haven't been vaccinated since I was a little kid.
An absolute stand by an actual American cowboy. That's Forey Smith, who is an actor on, of course, television's #1 show, Yellowstone. He plays the character, it's senior ranch hand Lloyd Pierce. Now, if you watch Yellowstone, my family, a lot of conservative families, we do watch Yellowstone. We certainly don't watch a lot of TV, but that's one of the shows that once a week we will tune in and watch that, because it just shows a conservative, anti-woke take, great characters. It's basically, and if you watch Yellowstone, you know this, it's basically Game of Thrones set in Montana in the modern day, right? It's pretty much the idea of it. There's always competing factions and plots and people backstabbing each other, a lot of soap opera kind of drama, but it's also done in a prestige sort of format. So you get these beautiful, lush landscapes. They film the entire thing on location, et cetera, et cetera. Well, a lot of the people, including Taylor Sheridan, who's the writer and creator and one of the actors on it, actually grew up being real life cowboys. And how amazing is it that in today's day and age, to be a rebel, to be independent, to be free-minded, is to go up and say, I will not comply with your bio mandate, Hollywood. I'm checked out. I mean, how could you be more legit than this? And by the way, let me tell you something, all right? You want to be a little bit, let's just go behind the curtain here a little bit. Hollywood celebrities are probably the most anti-vaccine people in the entire world. The entire anti-vaccine movement started in Hollywood. You can go find Jim Carrey's old tweets. They're all still up. There's a ton of celebrities from back in the day, and it was all over Hollywood. And I've been told by a lot of people that work there still, that work in the industry, covertly, who, by the way, also listen to Human Events Daily, so they'll know this. There's a lot of actors in Hollywood right now that are operating fake papers. Say they got the shot, they ain't getting nothing. So the difference here isn't just that he didn't get the jab. No. The difference here is that he's taking a stand. He's not going to take it, and he's not going to lie about having taken it. Because I guarantee you there's A-list celebrities, A+++ list celebrities that will not go anywhere near this thing. But Forey Smith, he's the one who's man enough to come out publicly and state it, and say that he won't go to get an award for a great show. I had some issues with last season, and even specifically what they did with his character last season with Lloyd. But it is a great show, and it's definitely better than anything out on TV. So kudos to you. Thank you for taking a stand. I have no idea what his politics are, what his background is, but when you see that video, you see the genuine nature behind it, and that's a good guy who's standing up for the right thing. And so ends today's transmission of Human Events Daily. Thank you once again. Remember our motto, our oath, our solemn vow to you. Be good, be brief, be gone. This has been your highest packed action, analysis, and detailed information that you're going to get of the news today. Remember, information, not indoctrination. Human Events Daily. Remember, our homework to you, share this out with one of your normie friends, and then leave us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. But before we go, it's time for today's history break. February 17th, 1989. Scientists studying the ozone layer. Remember the ozone layer? This is before global warming. The ozone layer was the big thing. They went in to the Arctic to try to determine if there was an ozone hole up there. Well, guess what? There wasn't one. You know what they found out? They didn't actually understand how the ozone layer worked. So remember that when someone tells you that the science is changing, because science doesn't change. People change, and our understanding of science changes. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
All right, guys, you have signed up, right? You've joined freedomsquare.com. If you haven't, why not? This should have happened a decade ago. How did somebody not think of this earlier? If you're a business owner, we have a business directory to promote your business to patriots across the nation. So if you want to buy American, if you want to sell American, we have a business directory. Whatever it is, go now.
Join us in the fight for freedom. Welcome to Freedom Square.
Okay, we are out here in our nation's capital, the regime-occupied National Capital Region. We now turn it over to the free state of Arizona as Turning Point Live continues. The couch. Take it away, John.
Appreciate it, Jack. Hey, everyone, I'm your host, John Root. Welcome to TPUSA HQ. Here's what we're covering today. First, a legendary sports broadcaster is leaving sports for politics and more in the daily briefing. Next, an important conversation about race relations in America. Then we share an exclusive story out of California regarding kids potentially sharing rooms with counselors of the opposite gender at science camp. And finally, we'll introduce you to the newest members of the Professor Watchlist, followed by a very special celebration of our 100th live episode. All right, let's roll. TPUSA Live from HQ starts now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
Well, welcome back to TPUSA Live. We're at TPUSA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. And can Jobob be sitting any closer to me right now?
I've never sat in this position. I don't know what to do with my hands.
What an honor, right? Welcome.
I've never sat not right there.
This is
and
true.
Then Drew threatened to fight me, so I gave him my seat.
Hey.
True story.
New TPUSA contributor. Honestly, Drew's terrifying when he says he wants to fight you. Like,
I
he said
don't know
that
if
to
I
me
can
one
take-
time. I will never get on his bad side again.
I can take Stephen Davis, but I don't know about Drew.
Why I gotta be thrown in there?
My goodness, what another T-shirt you got there.
Yes, it is coming. It is coming in the town near you. Gotta love it.
Get pitted. I would love to see you on the surfboard.
It's not happening. I tried like bodyboarding and all that type of. No. Paddleboarding.
The
no.
bodyboard's got to be like, what, the size of this cup to you? She's like, I'm trying to shred these waves.
It looked like I was just like on top of the water because you couldn't see the board at all. It was actually phenomenally fantastic. Gotta love it.
All right, Jobob, tell us about yesterday. You were in Chicago. You were filming some content with Turning Point at the No Forced Mask.
Yeah.
Nice.
Tell us
So
about it.
Charlie Kirk had a big rally yesterday, just about an hour outside of Chicago, talking about not forcing masks, anti-mask mandates. The biggest takeaway that I saw, because we got to talk to a lot of different people who were at the rally, there was every walk of life there. Every single race, every single age, every single type of background. I talked to so many different people, and I think this will come up later in the show when we have that race relations conversation. Everybody there was there for one unified reason: to get rid of mask mandates because they don't freaking work. Thank you.
TPUSA.com/mask. That's where you can get all the information about our new initiative there. And then if you weren't able to watch that live stream, go back and watch it, because there's so many kids around the country that are making a massive impact and making change. Especially a lot of these high school kids that we're seeing, they're getting forced into the gymnasium, and then they're getting locked in there at times. And some of them were so articulate during this rally when there was the question and answer session.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. There's times where we're like, I don't know about the next generation. You watch something like that and you're like, there are some good kids out there that are going to be great leaders, because they already are great leaders now.
There's hope.
I think it's necessary too. You know, I think every generation is going to have to face something and take a stand for something. I think a lot of millennials on the left think they are. They, claim there's a bunch of black people being hunted and slaughtered, on the streets of the United States of America, which
Thanks,
is
LeBron.
not true.
Yeah,
but and we saw riots because of that. But that was all just literally propagated and engineered chaos.
Yep.
But this is real. I mean, where's Antifa? Where's BLM? Where are all these anti-fascist organizations when there's actual real fascism coming from the President Biden administration? Nowhere to be found. So kudos to the kids that are standing up right now in the face of some real tyranny.
Yeah, and then Stephen, I'm going to want to get your reaction to this. You talk about real courage and standing for something. So legendary sports broadcaster Michelle Dysphoria, she was on the sideline for NBC during the Super Bowl. She's been one of the best sideline reporters out there, and she took a lot of heat after she was on The View. And she was in the conservative seat, and obviously she had a lot to say about race relations, Colin Kaepernick, and then she actually announced that she's retiring from sideline reporting, retiring from broadcasting, and she's going to get into politics. And she talked to Tucker Carlson about it last night. Let's check it out.
And it breaks my heart that my kids are being taught that skin color matters. And to me, if you want white people to step up, I was stepping up when I addressed the school and said, why are we having these picnics for families of color? Why are we separating our kids? If the world is integrated, let's continue that and have everyone find out what we all have in common, not just what we have in common with people who look like us.
What a radical extremist she is.
Clearly.
Stephen, what do you think?
It's about time people put their money where their mouth is and go out there and stand for what is right. Because she's absolutely right. I mean, this idea of segregation and you know, like we always talk about black holy spaces when it comes to these colleges, when it comes to these parents, only this type of people, this color of people are allowed. That's not good for society. That's not good for America. So the fact that she's standing up, we need that. We need more warriors going out there and standing up on the front lines of this culture war and saying, you know what, we're going to handle this, and I'm getting the political ring and handle this myself. We need more of that. Let's go.
Yeah, and then something she ended up saying too, you got to go back and watch that whole interview with Tucker about how she is most afraid of people not being able to speak up or being silenced. Right. And she said there's a lot of people that she's worked with that didn't want to share her stuff. They're afraid to lose their job. And I was talking to a lot of different sideline reporters that have done some work with her, and they're so proud of her. Yeah. It's great stuff. We're going to talk about race relations coming up next. We'll see you guys in 90 seconds.
Good ranchers, straight from the American farm. 100% American meat, 100% of the time. Delivered straight to your door.
Wait, are those my Good Rancher steaks? I'll be taking these.
Claim your 10 free bistro fillets with your next order with promo code TPUSA Live at goodranchers.com.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis, Drew Hernandez, Jobob. I'm John Root. We got to talk about race relations. And I think this is going to be such an important conversation because there's so much from the right and the left about it. Just like the left is obviously going to try to get you riled up from the sense of race. Everything can be dumbed down to race, gender, sexuality, all that stuff from the left. And then on the right, there's the time where you're just like, well, I just don't like that. I think that's just wrong. But are there enough people actually sitting down? I mean, look at all of us right here on this couch right now. We need to have these kind of conversations. And then when you see a Gallup poll for the second time in a row, this is the lowest point in more than 20 years when it comes to race relations between white and black Americans. It seems like there is a battle right now, Stephen, and they want us fighting against each other.
And they're getting exactly that. I mean, Nicole Hannah-Joneses, the Ibram X. Kennedys, the Al Sharptons, they're all having their way, and they're making a lot of money. They're making a ton of money off of dividing America and putting American against American, citizen against citizen, race against race, and they're making a killing doing it. And they don't care. That just goes to show how morally devoid they are if they're going to continue to put these people against each other, not caring that they're tearing Americans apart and tearing America apart, with this, especially with this Gallup poll. This is absolutely terrible. So we got to speak out against it. This is ridiculous, and it's continues to go on. And if we don't say anything about it, guess what's going to happen? The further devolving of the United States of America.
And you see that happen a lot more often, where you actually have like minorities come out and start to speak up for themselves, you know, that actually come and speak that's, you know, not the pre-approved narrative that the far left wants, you know, for their black people or their brown people to be, you know, spewing across the airwaves or on TV shows. And it's funny because these are the people that come out and say, well, you know, the white people are, you know, really putting the black people down, or it's the white people that are destroying everything for the brown people. And like, this is what's happening in our country. But you start to get some minorities that come out and say, hey, wait, actually, you know, I am black, I am brown, and I'm kind of successful. This doesn't kind of add up for me, so you don't speak for me. But then immediately you get censored, you get called an Uncle Tom, you get called a coconut. Today, as of today, I literally got called a white power activist on Twitter. I don't know how that works.
Excuse
but
me?
Yeah, literally.
Clearly.
Yeah,
Probably
white power activist. But this
an
is
account with an egg.
But this is
the
what
avatar,
happens,
yeah.
and it comes from the same people that sit there and claim that racism is destroying everything for all people of color, and it's always coming from the far left.
Yep.
They're the ones that project. They're the ones that accuse what they're doing themselves. And at this point, it's just kind of like, we need more black people speaking up.
Yeah.
We need more brown people speaking up. We need more people speaking out like this, because the more they get censored, the more I think people are going to start to like wake up to the reality.
Well, those voices just need to be amplified, because I think you can speak on this all the time, just till you're blue in the face. That like there are people speaking up, but that stuff you talk about censorship.
Yeah.
You talk about people that get shamed into either retracting what they said or they're just not given a platform at all anymore. Like if it's in the media space, people just aren't talking about this. No. At all, because they're terrified. I mean, look at Michelle Tafoya right now too. She's like, I want to be able to talk about some of these things. Like, just sit down, have a dialogue, but I'm not allowed to do that.
And it's like, you guys really want to have a conversation about racism?
Let's do it.
We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
Is like, whenever we get backlash, right? Yes, it's the psychopath white liberals that are the real racists, but like, there's some serious racism going on in the black community against the black community, and even in the Hispanic community against the Hispanic community. Like, it's not just white people that are racist, okay? Like, right now, I guess I could speak like in Mexico, right? Yeah. The people that come from Guatemala, the people that come through their southern border illegally, Mexicans hate those people. Like, racially hate those people. Like, that's a fact. Like, they don't want them there. They want them deported. They think they take up way too much space in Mexico themselves, and there's like a serious like racist problem there. But nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to talk about the real racism going on against races within themselves.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're looking within the black community. See, here's the funny thing. I mean, I can probably count on my hand 5 times when a white person was actually racist against me. Like, absolutely, without a doubt, racist. Yeah. Every day, I get messages in my inbox talking about I'm a coon, I'm Uncle Tom, white man's slave, white man's dog, race traitor, self-hater. I get called it all, and it's by other black liberals. You know, I was like, of course, this is what happens on a daily basis. And you try to say, oh, you gotta be scared of the white people. White people are gonna come and get you. No, I'm scared of black people coming to get me. Boy, I'm trying to tell you something. It's absolutely disgusting. It's disgusting, it really is.
And it's like they don't want you to be successful.
No.
There's like this crazy thing going on in the black community and the Hispanic community where it's like, you're oppressed, you're oppressed, you're oppressed. The white people are oppressing you. There's no way you could make it out of the hood. There's no way you can make it out of poverty. There's no way you could one day make 6 figures, get into the middle class, go way beyond. There's no way you could do that because you're oppressed. But you do it, and they blame you for joining forces with white people. It's like you become successful. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly. It's like the whole point is to get the money, get the bag, as they say. You want to get the money, you want to get the bag, and you want to get out the hood, right? That's what they want you to do. That's what everyone wants to do.
Started from the bottom, now I'm here.
Absolutely. Sure. The whole point of that song is, look, that's the American dream. Everyone wants a white picket fence. Everyone wants that. But yet and still within the black community.
Why does the
if
fence
you
have
do
to be
that-
white, Stephen? I mean,
You're a race traitor. You're a race traitor. You've betrayed us.
turn your back
you
on your
sold
own
out
race.
for whitey.
Yes.
It's like always, yeah.
And then what? Who's going to save you? Like this white liberal.
but of course.
What?
All of them.
I'm curious, and I'm actually genuinely curious to know what you guys think about this. At what point do we stop defending against people making racial attacks? What I mean by that is, when Joe Rogan was going through his whole using the N-word and all that sort of stuff, a lot of people came to his defense to say, no, he's not racist. But there was this comedian named Tom Segura.
I love this. This is good.
Who posted a photo with himself, Joe Rogan, and Dave Chappelle. And the comment he left on it was, here's Joe Rogan with a black. And what that said, and it's funny, but what that said is that we're not even taking your accusations seriously anymore. So at what point do we stop arguing, say, no, we're not, and just roll our eyes and go, whatever? Because at some point, it's gotten so ridiculous that you just stop taking it seriously. When former President Trump kept getting asked, do you disavow white supremacy? After the 50th time of saying yes, do you continue to entertain the question as if it's a valid question? Or do you just roll your eyes and go like, whatever, like you're going to say whatever you're going to say and belittle that question?
You have to.
What do you, like, at what point do we do that and stop defending it?
Now.
Okay.
Right now.
Yeah. I like that. I'm actually
moment.
curious.
This moment, yeah.
Right now.
Because they're going to call you racist. If you're on the right, they're going to call you a racist regardless. If you even espouse things that are of the right, or if you espouse the truth, you're going to be called a racist regardless. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say. You're going to be labeled a racist. So just get used to it.
So lean into it, I guess. I don't know. Like, what are you like? Yep, that's me.
That's me.
Apparently, the brown guy can also be a white supremacist.
You know how many times I've been called a white supremacist, a neo-Nazi? I mean, it's the absolute most asinine thing you could ever think of and ever imagine. But this is what happens in the day and age where people are just losing their daggone mind. So you just got to say, after a while, you know what? Okay, whatever. I'm a white supremacist, whatever. I'm a neo-Nazi, clearly.
Finally, an admission of guilt.
I think the concern that I do have is we have a generation of white kids that are growing up to believe that their skin color is wrong. And that
White
bothers
guilt.
me.
That's it.
Yeah, white guilt.
Even
Yeah.
though I'm not even white. Because if it was happening to black people, I would be here advocating against it.
Absolutely.
If it was happening to brown people, I'd be doing the same thing. And I think there's this crazy turn of events happening in our culture through racist CRT, where now white people are being targeted, and you're going to have an entire generation of little white kids that are now going to be taught that their skin color is wrong, and that their birth was wrong, and that they're by default racist. And to me, that is evil. And I think we do have to take that seriously because, I mean, you take a look at history, we've seen some fascist, authoritarian, totalitarian governments come out and racist governments come out and single out a specific group of people because of who they are, what they believe, and that turned into a genocide. And, you know, I might sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist right now, but I've dealt with these people, and some people really want white people to die because of who they are. And I think right now,
this is true.
I try to use my platform as much as I can to help my white friends because I think it's wrong. And
you do a great job, too.
I try my best, but I just think we do have to highlight that and seek to destroy that because that's race. It's really racist. It really is.
But a lot of
For me,
people
I'm not even white, and it breaks my heart that I mean I was a youth pastor for like 5 years, and it breaks my heart to see like young white kids being taught and engineered that their race or their skin color is wrong by birth and by default. And where does that go?
Can we talk about the term Latinx really quick? Or
Please,
Latinx or whatever.
I want you to speak to this because what bothers me is like we're in this place where like white people can't defend themselves. Like if a white man wants to come out and say, listen, I'm white and that's okay, and I'm proud of that, that's not racist or white supremacist. That's just you being who you are, because we live in a generation right now where white people are being demonized, and that's wrong. So I want to hear from Johnny Root. Why are you happy with being white?
Well, I think first off, it's like I don't feel like some sort of victim. I feel like this is the way things have been happening especially just recently, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I can't believe people are attacking me because I'm white. I'm like one of the whitest people you've ever seen. I can make fun of that stuff, but I don't need to go and like posture myself and be like, well, look at all the black friends I had in the past, and look at all these black people I played sports with, and then look at I am accepted, and I don't need to explain that to people. And I feel like that's what's happening right now in our society is like, prove to me that you are anti-racist. No, prove to me why you thinking I'm racist just because I look like this. That's it. You don't know my heart. You don't know my soul at all. And like, that's why there's too many people that have just given up this whole idea of just like, here, let me show you like every single day. Like, let me lay my white privilege at the door every single day. I'm sorry. I know we joke about that on the show all the time, but stop buying into this kind of stuff. Because you give them this right now, it's never going to be enough. That's why I think we tell people like, stop apologizing. Because you start apologizing, it's like, they've got you. That's it. And it's never, they're going to keep chastising you. They're going to find something where there's plenty of people in the past, they tweeted something dumb when they're in junior high. And it's like, see, that's who you really are. It's like, no, maybe that was just a dumb kid. And also too, like, I hate that it's just dumbed down to white and black.
Yes.
What a beautiful country we have right here, this melting pot. What is like diversity has been such a beautiful aspect of our country. Diversity of thought, races, background, everything. But everything now is dumbed down to, hey, I'm going to turn on Netflix and here's like black directed and produced shows that you can go watch here. And then here's how you need to support black owned businesses or creators or something like that. And then it's like, here, white people, show me during the BLM riots that you really support my people. It's disgusting, it's divisive, and it has absolutely no foundation in truth at all. Like, I want to see people who they are in Christ and not dumb everything down to like, Stephen, I see you for who you are, like at your heart and soul.
Yes.
And that's what we need to get down to, and it's content of character. Stop this whole color of skin rant over.
Mic drop.
There you go.
Goodness gracious. That's real. I mean, especially when it comes to the media. The media is one of the biggest proponents of the idea of race, right? The media, the entertainment industry. You have the news media as well. I mean, they're always talking about race, and they push that out so much. And they prop up entities like BLM, which is one of the most nefarious organizations, if I must say so myself. The most race. See, and that's the thing. You want to talk about systemic. You want to talk about that very essence of systemic. Systemic racism and all. This organization, BLM, is funded by everybody and is supported by everybody. It's supported when it comes to Hollywood, right? You have actors and actresses standing up for BLM. It's supported by, on a governmental level, right? You have presidents and vice presidents standing up for them. You have the entertainment industry, sports. You have BLM insignias all over the NBA and NFL. Everywhere it's supported by Amazon, big tech company. It's supported by everything. And this is the same organization that has been, during the 2020 riots, demonized an entire swath of people, burned up cities, looted towns, and then they're supported financially? I mean, this is absolutely, and it is systemic. It's institutionalized, right? So we got to combat that. This is absolutely egregious. This is ridiculous. And if we don't speak up now, we're going to lose our daggone country. And I'm not willing to let that happen. I'm not letting, not on my watch.
Yeah, and that's why I want to keep this conversation going too. We're going to bleed into this next segment after we go into commercial break. We do have an exclusive story out of the Pali Institute about what kids are dealing with their counselors, just this misgendering and crazy gender identity stuff we're dealing with. We're going to be back in 90 seconds to keep the conversation going.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona.
El socialismo no funciona.
TPUSA Live
is about to be spicy. I mean, would you expect anything less? It's me, Alex Clark. Of course it's going to be spicy. Tune into The Spillover, my brand new podcast. Think of it like the older sister to politics with a lot more conservative.
What's up, guys? My name is John Root, and every week I'm breaking down the top stories in sports and bringing you conversations you won't hear anywhere else. It's going to be a great time here on Breaking.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. Now that Drew Hernandez is all situated here,
Sorry.
We got MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis, Jobob. I want to keep the conversation going about race relations, and then we do have an exclusive story that you got to stick around for. It's going to be right after this. So there's a few different politicians that we've seen when it comes to taking criticism, they're turning that into racism. So I know we've heard from Mayor Lori Lightfoot quite a bit, like, I am not going to have any white media members in these press conferences, and then it got to a point where it's like, I'm only going to have one-on-one interviews with black people of the media. And then you also just heard Mayor Eric Adams, like, he's getting criticized right now and just lecturing the media to say, you know, I can't believe you would criticize me. That is rooted in something that's systemic, and it's just because you don't like seeing a black person elevated up to this level. And I think you mentioned sports too. You saw that a ton during the NBA bubble, and you see it right now too. You have anybody that pushes back on this where it's like, I just have a legitimate question. I just have a question about your policies. I have a question about your play on the field or the court. Clearly. And it's like, it's absolutely insanity to me that is accepted by the media, that they are allowing politicians and people of power or influence speak to them like that and be like, okay, well, I know that's wrong. That's not right at all. Like, how do you respond to something like that, and how do you maybe encourage media members to be a little bit more courageous? Because not everyone's going to be like a Drew Hernandez. It's like, hey, I'm just going to tell you straight up what's going on here.
Well, if you want to fix anything, you're going to have to speak up against it and speak out against it. I'm sorry, if I'm not a racist individual, you can't convince me that I am. And it's just that simple. You know, you're not going to shut me up and shut me down just because I want to be able to speak my mind or ask the daggone question. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to see what's going on with our culture. I'm going to see why you think I'm racist, right? If it's just off the base on the color of my skin, then doesn't that make you the racist, that you're basing everything on color of skin? I mean, you got to be able to have these conversations. You got to stand up for yourself, and you got to stop being bullied all the daggone time. Grow a pair. Grow a pair at the end of the day. Stand up and be like, no, this is not acceptable. I'm not going to let you race bait me into this conversation. And people, especially when it comes to Mayor Eric Adams and Stacey Abrams, you know, coming with these racial apologies, or not apologies, but statements of why you're coming at me, or you're coming at me because of it. You give me a break. Right. We're coming at you because you're wrong. Okay, first and foremost, let's go and put it out there. But you got to call them out, and you got to call out the race baiters. You got to call them out because they're tearing down this daggone country. And if we don't call them out, like I said before, we're not going to have a country left. Everyone's going to be against everyone, and they're going to wonder why. And the race baiters want that because that's how they make their money. So the more division they cause, obviously, the more they get paid because they're going to be able to capitalize off of the dissension going on in our country. So we got to speak out. We got to call them out and be able to ask your questions by all means. Ask your questions. Say what it is that you have to say. Truth transcends color. So say whatever they have to say as long as it's truthful.
The one thing that I feel like I want to get on here is how demeaning it is to look at race as the only reason why somebody didn't succeed. That's like if you put a 9-year-old in the NFL and they don't succeed, there's a legitimate argument to make, well, yeah, they're 9.
Yeah. There's also maybe a dead
They're black.
I'm sorry.
But if that's the
ooh. Pass over the middle to little Tommy.
Tommy's dead.
Getting up. It looks like NFL blitz. Sorry.
That was short-lived.
I'm so sorry.
But that's essentially the argument you're making if you're going to say, well, Stephen Davis, he needs a hand, because he's black. What you're in effect saying is that, well, because he's black, he can't nearly do as well as the rest of us. And briefly brought up Latinx, by the way. How hilariously stupid is that? First of all, 4% of Hispanics use the word Latinx. 30% of them even heard of it. The rest of them are like, I don't even know what that is. That's the dumbest thing in the world I've ever even heard. But what it is white intellectual liberals telling Hispanic people their language is wrong. How is that not more racist? I don't understand. So the idea of moving race and integrating it into everything is in effect telling minorities, well, you're not as good as us, so we need to help you up. If you completely disregard race at all and judge only by merits, one, you're going to get a better society.
Yes.
And two, you're not demeaning people in the first place.
And this is why it's important to talk about these things, because we have a lot of people within these race groups that they just feed into it. Some people just feed into this stuff. A lot of the activists and people that push this stuff, but I was never really big on speaking about race and Hispanic stuff.
Latinx
and all that. Because that was never my brand. I never wanted to brand myself as I'm some Hispanic conservative guy.
No,
there's nothing about me, but I'm a Hispanic conservative. Like
an extra badge or something.
But as of recent, I did start to notice if I don't speak up against exactly what you're talking about, these people will attempt to define who I am.
Boom.
And that's a problem, because if you allow these establishments or these corporate talking heads or these mainstream media outlets begin to define who you are and you kind of remain silent on that, it's your fault if you become, isn't it? It's like these people are stereotypes are racist and this, but they they define us all as literal, I guess you could call them new wave stereotypes because of all these Latinx, all these stupid little words they use. It's a headache.
If you're able to put everybody in a specific box that is convenient for them, it's here's how we're going to market to them. You start flowing into this specific group. This is who you're a part of. But also, I think a lot of this takes away personal responsibility.
Yes.
Where it's just all right, if you can dumb something down to you didn't get a job, or that relationship didn't work out, or things that just aren't working out in life, it's just well, it's probably just because there's just racism and there's nothing I can do to fight it. Isn't that convenient?
It's a very convenient.
It's a very convenient thing. That's why it's so effective with the marketing. It's why it's so manipulative and why people buy into it. Where it's yes, I want to join that group to fight against this because that's hurting me and my community, and people buy into it so much. It's insane.
Last thing on this, I promise. But imagine the situation that people are creating for those of us who are successful and work hard.
Right.
Because what you do, if you're saying, well, we're going to promote minorities because they're minorities and they need a help up, then you look at someone like Drew, who is a fantastic investigative reporter, and people might then say, well, he's just there because he's the token Hispanic. Not because he's awesome at what he does. Stephen in the same way. He's just there because he's black. No, you're a smart guy and you're intelligent, you make points. John is actually only here because he's white. But
token white guy.
Token white guy.
But that's what you do. You pigeonhole people that actually are working really hard, and you demean the hard work that they're putting in when you tack on this, well, we need to promote minorities. Dude, I don't need your help. I'm going to be good on my own.
And at the same time, that's literally what they do.
Exactly.
At the same time, all of the woke hires and all the inclusive diversity hires, all that crap that you're seeing in corporate America, all that stuff, it's literally because they feel sorry for the black people, or they believe that the black people can't get ahead, or they believe that the brown people can't get ahead. So we have to, we're the corporate white savior. So here's our hand, pathetic black people. Here's our hand, pathetic brown people, because you could never get ahead. It's
that's the whole anti-racist thing where it's hey, look at me, look at what I just did. Look at this.
The white knights.
The white knights.
The white knights.
Yeah. And then people are honestly losing out on opportunities right now because of this.
Yeah.
And I know I've had a few conversations. I'm not going to say any names, but a few conversations I've had, especially over the past few weeks. Obviously, from the sports side of things, I'm always keeping up with that and great connections there. And they're saying hey, I legitimately just did not get a job I've been working over 2 decades for in the industry because of the color of my skin. Just because they want to promote this. I got this job because I was told if this this broadcaster's out or this goes on, that I'm going to be able to have an opportunity that I've been working my entire life for, but I don't get it because I don't fit this pigment.
And that's a disgrace.
That's
That's a
systemic
disgrace.
racism.
As minorities, we should not accept that.
Thank you.
Because
Thank
we
you.
can be better. We are going to do better. We have the ability to be great. We have the talent. We have the intellect. We have the tools. We have everything we have to be great in this country. And if anybody is telling you that you need a handout, and if anybody is telling you that you need my help because you are oppressed or you don't have the ability to do it, the enemy isn't the scary monster out in the ether. The enemy is them.
Come on now.
That's a real.
That's a real.
And I think
Mic
that's why
drop.
this is so important, too. I'm so glad we're able to sit down and have this conversation. But please don't go anywhere. We are going to tell you this exclusive story out of the outdoor science school. 5th graders, what they've had to deal with their counselors being the opposite sex and sharing the same cabin. It's crazy stuff. Stick around. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Osiga Kaku. I'm from the great state of North Carolina, and I'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
My name is Preston Para, and we'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle Clare from Bolingbrook, Illinois, and I will see you at freedomsquare.com.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie. I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
Hi, I'm Johnny Richardson. I'm from Prescott, Arizona, and I'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
I'm Rachel. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and you'll see me at freedomsquare.com. I'm Soraya. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I will see you at freedomsquare.com. My name is Michelle DeGroot from Los Angeles, California, and I'll see you at freedomsquare.com.
Hi, my name is Emma Faye Redcan, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I will see you at freedomsquare.com.
Join us in the fight for freedom. Welcome to Freedom Square.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got Jobob, Drew Hernandez, MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis. I'm John Rue.
Guess what? It's not Wednesday, so we're not doing What in the World Wednesday.
We missed you.
You're
All
safe.
right, continue with your
You're
thing.
safe. And I feel like you've probably been on the edge of your seat. We have this exclusive story. The TPUSA Live team has been working very hard on making sure that this story gets out, because we've talked so much about gender and this identity and how everything is just not about science at all. So when you hear a story about 5th graders going to science camp, so it's the outdoor science school, that is basically like the overarching organization, and they work with the Pali Institute that have these kids at a science camp for about a week. And these kids, they don't have any phones at all. I know when we grew up, like
that was my life.
It's a weird concept for us because we didn't have phones there.
No.
And we felt like this was a nice week away because we're able to learn about real science. We're able to talk about this stuff, and we trust the counselors and we trust the directors and everybody there. That we didn't really feel like, all right, if there is an emergency, it's probably more just like a kid just got hurt.
Fight broke out.
Or just fight broke out or something like that.
That's
but
it.
now these kids are dealing with counselors, we're being told, that blatantly have gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
They are sharing cabins with counselors here that these counselors are saying that they identify as they, them. So potentially you have your kid out there or your brother or sister out there, 5th grader, might be sharing the same cabin, a girl's cabin, with some dude.
I just realized the irony that this is happening at science camp.
Yes.
Right. Right. Define irony.
Yeah.
This. Isn't it? In the very essence of a counselor is you want to be able to counsel someone on when it comes to wisdom, you have wisdom. That's why you're a counselor. You're someone who can actually provide something of intellect or an intellectual argument or you're more mature to be able to handle situations. Obviously not. If you're claiming things that are not real, that they, them, that's not a thing. As much as you try to push these pronoun ideas and all, it's not a thing.
Well, one of their first activities was making sure they learned about pronouns and preferred pronouns and identity. Like you're going to science camp. You want to learn about fungi, or like how old are these trees here, or like the scientific method. You're not going to learn about like, hey, these are my feelings. Like
science camp is this.
And then also too, a lot of this comes down to like you could legit have somebody that identifies as a woman that has a penis in there with 5th graders that's going to be like showering at the same time.
That's a problem.
Sharing that stuff.
And this was
and
the
like,
girls, right? With the girls.
And then like here's one of, we're going to show you a photo of one of the counselors here. So this counselor's name is Fern and identifies as they, them.
I don't think you can identify as a plural.
You know what I would love
Grammatically,
if we can, because I know we're in contact with these people, right?
Yeah.
It would be cool. It would be cool if we can get some of the girls that are like super based to challenge the counselor on their science and their views and record it, so we could put it out on the internet to see someone based like in science camp challenging their counselor that it has gender dysphoria, that doesn't actually believe in science, pushing back on their entire identity. I would like to see that.
That would be
and
interesting.
then I mean, even parent, like, so as a parent, they're starting to hear things like this, and remember, like, they don't have contact with their kids.
That's scary
at all, because they don't have their phones. So I'm sure you're being a kid, they're just like, this seems off. And I remember when you were in 5th grade?
Right.
Could you imagine trying to like process through all that? But we do have one of these emails that was sent from the parent that we can show right now, and the response here. So that's obviously from Emmy Teague there, and then sending it to, so this is from someone from the Pali Institute saying, per California state law, we place staff in the cabins they identify with.
Yeah, you just deal with it. It's like, you know, my daughter, she feels uncomfortable, and she doesn't, you know, my kid doesn't feel comfortable with this because, you know, there's some, you know, sexual stuff that could potentially take place, or we don't want to see certain things, or my child doesn't want to be exposed to anything, or just feels uncomfortable with this going on. But you just have to deal with it because we know what's best for you.
Wasn't this is a they-them counselor?
Yes.
In a girls' cabin?
Yeah.
So isn't that not what they just said? They put the counselor in the cabin they identify with? Shouldn't they have been in the they-them cabin? Right? Like, I don't know. If that's what they said, well, we put them in the cabin they identify with. Well,
they
wait, but you just, that's not, okay.
It doesn't even make, even the explanation doesn't even make sense.
I'm not, I don't know.
This, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the whole We Spa incident.
Yep.
Right? And there's all these incidents cropping up all over the daggone country, and you know we would be foolish not to recognize them. I mean, with the We Spa incident, Darren Morager, a registered sex offender, right, went into the women's space, or the women's locker room, or the women's area of the We Spa, and he claims to be a woman, and he was showcasing his partially erect penis around women and young girls. Minors. And when the news showed up, because there was a big protest and all this type of stuff, when the news showed up, they classified it as people standing against trans rights. That's how they classified it. Not people standing up for what's common, what's decent, and what's good for society, but people standing against trans rights, right? Same thing with Loudoun County. The young lady that was sexually assaulted and raped in the bathroom, and then come to find out that this person did this, and this was done by a transgender boy who claims he's a girl. And this happened at another school, right? Yeah. Like, you see this type of stuff cropping up. And with the Darren Morager case, even the police were saying that they think that he just does this so he can, you know, he claims he's transgender so he can occupy women's spaces. No. So here we go. We can't sit here and act like this type of stuff does not happen. Mm-hmm. This type of stuff does crop up quite often when you have to when you're dealing with gender dysphoria, things of this nature. This type of stuff will happen.
And also, they're not forthcoming right away. Too.
Not at all.
So it's like they're not telling these parents and their kids right before you go off to science camp. Right. So here's our policy. Here. It's like, no, like parents have to find out now.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I'd be horrified if I was a parent. I found out that my kid just went through that for an entire week.
Yes.
And I didn't know it all. Like, that's the thing too. It's like the left is not forthcoming about these things. They're trying to hide it. And obviously, we're going to go to the extreme about like what could happen, like an assault, like in Loudoun County, because that can happen because it has happened.
Yes.
Of course.
And it keeps happening.
I have a structural question just about the whole idea of gender and gender fluidity and all that sort of stuff. we saw this when Matt Walsh went on Dr.
Oh,
Phil asking,
yes.
what does it mean to be a woman,
Yes.
right? If you're going to use gender, right,
Yes.
and not sex, if you're just talking about gender and you're talking about what does it mean to be a woman, then aren't you categorizing gender into gender roles and gender stereotypes? Which isn't that the exact opposite of what the feminist movement was?
Oh.
Wasn't the feminist movement to say women can do anything? I agree with that. In that regard, I am a feminist. I think women can do anything that men can do from an intellectual, obviously not an athletic scale, not crazy, but from
Shout out to Leah Thomas.
but from like a work standpoint,
Yeah.
a job standpoint, a behavioral standpoint, women can do anything they want to do. I firmly believe that. Isn't saying that, well, I am a woman because I like to do X, Y, Z, diminishing the whole gender role component in the first place? Like, how are feminists not out, and I know this is like a 30,000-foot view, but how are feminists not like outraged saying that, like, well, I think I'm a woman because I like, pick some super derogatory stereotype. I like cooking, therefore I am more of a woman. How are feminists not up in arms saying, no, that doesn't define womanhood?
Well, there used to be, I guess, quote unquote, a war between feminists and the transgender.
Where did that go?
It went under covers because now, due to the whole LGBTQ, right? If you're not an ally,
plus IA.
I'm sorry. I guess I'm getting canceled now. Clearly, but was it TERF?
Yeah.
If you're trans. Radical, I can't remember the acronym.
We know what you mean.
Yeah. And even Dave Chappelle even spoke on that. And there are allies to the transgender movement because they don't want to be canceled. And they know that the transgender movement is so much bigger in scope and they're more powerful than the feminist movement. It's just replaced one over another. It's kind of like, the illegals have are the new black, you know what I'm saying, so to speak. So they were at war, but now it seems like...
It seems like the solution is, can't we just like, not divide, but can't we separate like we normally have done between XY chromosomes and XX chromosomes, and then feel free to do whatever you want. If you like things that tend to be more feminine, go for it. If you like things to be more masculine, go for it. Nobody cares.
Well, wouldn't you learn that in science camp?
But from a science perspective, shouldn't we just like continue to make sure that people are safe by separating in the ways that make sense historically and we've done forever and not really had many problems with? Like, I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking that?
No,
not at all.
Not at all, because I think we are in a depraved society. So, I mean, this is a perfect indicator to declare and to identify that that's where we are. When we have a society that cares more for a mentally ill person's feelings versus a little girl's purity, sexual purity, guarding that at all costs, I think that's where we're starting to see where the culture is depraved. It's upside down, and that's a massive problem. Because like that email that comes out, we just put people in wherever they identify as or whatever, right? They don't care.
Blow you off.
There's no concern of these things, and people come out and say, well, it's sex and people should be able to do whatever they want in this, and it's like, well, these hardcore libertarians, like, okay, well, what about children? Okay, because if people could do whatever they want, this is where this stuff goes.
Yes.
And then innocence gets violated. That's a problem. That's a huge problem.
And then we're even being told that like a few kids out there misgendered a counselor and got a 20-minute lecture about it. And
What does that even mean, though?
Well, that's where these kids are confused. So I think we talk about, like, obviously for us, like, we're always going to use our platform to say, like, we need strong men in society. And then this feminization of men is going to ruin this place. It already has in a lot of different ways. Like, we need strong men in situations like this to step up. Like, think about the men that are there at that, that are part of this camp.
Right.
If they're just letting this go. Like,
scared to speak up.
Stephen Davis is the strong man for all of us. I think you can take on that role for us.
I wouldn't see, and especially in a situation like that, I would love to take that on head on. Absolutely.
Could you imagine Stephen rolling up to science camp? Where's Fern, and Tree, and Bush, the they-thems over there? Counselors?
Is it crazy that Stephen Davis could, if he wanted to be the world champion mixed martial artist as a female?
I
you would be unstoppable.
I can
Which
say
is
that I'm
horrible,
absolutely.
but it's possible.
I should.
At this
just
point.
to prove a point.
Yeah, at this
you know,
point.
Just a troll.
I wouldn't watch that.
Samantha
That would
Davis.
be great.
Yeah.
And you're black, you'd be
Stephanie Davis.
untouchable.
Oh, absolutely.
My God.
And if I did it in Black History Month, that would be even better.
Happy month, by the way. I forgot to say that to you earlier.
You're
Just
too
a-
kind.
That's a freaking great idea.
Great
To go
idea.
back to Drew's point really quick, just to, like, not fun fact, but just factually, gender dysphoria is still in the DSM as a mental illness. And I'm like, this is not opinion, this is what the DSM says is a mental illness,
Yes.
and that hasn't been changed yet. Now, a lot of people are disregarding that. I know a lot of psych classes around the country are saying, well, that's outdated, but it's still there.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm not trying to be bigoted or mean-spirited, I'm stating a fact. Like, that's still in place. So when you call it a mental illness, even in the technical term, it still is.
Well, that's what you're talking about in a depraved society. I mean, in a just society, in a righteous society, in a good society, you would look at a mental illness and try to treat it. Yeah. But in a depraved society, you cheer it on.
Celebrate
oh,
it.
you're confused?
Encourage it.
Good. Yes,
Yeah.
I want you to be confused.
Yeah.
Yes, celebrate your confusion. And that's absolutely sick. That's why we need to really get out there and stand up for our kids, especially when it comes to situations like this. Because what happened at that camp, that should not be happening at all. And to find out after the fact, after this week that they're at science camp, finding out that your child had to endure this sort of thing, it's time for the parents and adults and men to stand up and be like, look, this is not okay. This is not right. We should be writing that organization. We should be going head on with them because this is absolutely egregious.
Yeah, you know, I agree with Steven. Listen, if you want to go out and identify as a freaking furry, whatever, like you go do that, but just stay the hell away from the kids.
Boom.
Because we have to stand up and take a stand against people that are targeting children with this garbage, this evil, this demonic doctrines that are coming down the pike. You can go identify as whatever you want, go do whatever you want. You're an adult, that's fine, but just stay away from the children. We just have to make that very clear.
And then as we wrap this up too, if we're able to throw up that email again too, if we have that still, throw that up again, just show people there. Assistant director at PaliInstitute.com.
There we go.
Boom. Send emails right after this.
Let them know how you feel.
Wait a minute. That would be so funny.
Yeah,
Let's
do
see
it.
if she wants to come
Send
on.
those emails.
Or they, I don't actually know. They, them, him, wants to come on.
And then coming up next, we have a special celebration of our 100th live episode. Also, go to ProfessorWatchlist.org. You'll get all the info there. See you in 3.
You have to ask the question, how is the most heavily funded tribe have the poorest population?
Listen to me. My country is very because everything problem here. Don't have petroleum for bus and Cuban, for car, for life, for nothing.
And it sucks. Socialism sucks. There's no other way you can describe it.
Do you like guns? Do you like ammo? Do you like suppressors? Do you like freedom? Do you love America? Do you like baseball? Do you like rifles? Do you like 9mm? Do you like pistols? Join me, Paige Rue, every week on Reloaded.
Good ranchers, straight from the American farm. 100% American meat, 100% of the time. Delivered straight to your door.
Wait, are those my Good Rancher steaks? I'll be taking these.
All of us.
Claim your 10 free bistro fillets with your
I'll
next
count you
order
in then
with
really
promo
quick, John.
code TPUSA Live at goodranchers.com.
Can this be under? That's fine. Okay. Okay. You wore such a cute outfit for the occasion too. I was like, cute dress, cute. Like I've never done bed last night. I texted you and then you. Oh, sorry. By the way, I wasn't meaning you needed to go tell John. I was just meaning somebody in the group message.
This is your brain. This is your brain on socialism. questions?
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. Like we told you, it's a very, very special day. Celebrate good times. Come on.
Let's
it's our
go.
100th live episode of TPUSA Live.
Dude.
Let's go.
Yes, indeed. Fantastic. Fantastic.
I mean, this has been amazing since we launched in September of last year. It's been a heck of a lot of work. And I mean, we've had some incredible guests on, including these three guys right here. And it's been incredible. I mean, like Pastor Jack Hibbs we had on, editor-in-chief of Breitbart, Alex Marlowe. We've had Brandon Tatum on, Sheriff Mark Lamb, Tito Ortiz was on, Will Witt.
Let's go.
Think of some of like the biggest people. Like Jim Jordan's been on the show too. And like just think about some of the big names we've had and the conversations. I mean, just think about today. Like we're providing an opportunity to sit on the couch and talk about things like race relations that you're probably not hearing anywhere else.
Exactly.
And that's important. I think we do need to talk about race. I think
Yes.
the 100-meter dash is much different than the 200-meter hurdles. Is this
Wrong
the
race.
wrong? Oh, sorry.
Important stuff?
Yeah.
The important
I'm
stuff,
sorry.
for sure.
I'm sorry I interrupted your screen with that terrible joke.
So this will be Jobob's last show. Thank you for being here for the
100 and
100th.
done. We're out.
100 and done. But I mean, you're going to be on the couch a good amount here too, Drew. It's like joining us here. I know you were here like in a different capacity before, and then now you're a part of the family. Like this has been pretty incredible.
Yeah, man. I love. I mean, I've done a lot of news hits and been on a variety of shows, but this one's really comfortable. I like just being able to sit down and have these conversations, and it's just real loose. Not in a bad way, but it's just real comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, the couches are very comfortable.
They are. Well,
Indeed,
literally
they are.
and the environment.
Shout out to Isabel Brown and Alex Clark for picking up the couches. They're very, very comfortable.
Can I take this moment to say the least favorite thing about this show? Actually, the thing that I hate the most.
You might guess what this is.
It's called What in the World Wednesday. It is the dumbest thing in the world. It makes me feel so uncomfortable, and I hate being here on Wednesdays, which I'm here every single Wednesday next week.
Fantastic.
That is one of those things that it's so fun because we've started to have like shticks in the show where it's just like Jobob.
I like rich people, and I hate What in the World Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah, quarantine Mary Jail. Just like, how much money do they have?
Who has the most money?
It's been so great. And then I know we've heard a lot of great responses to people that we interacted with at AmericaFest 2021. They're like, this is great. Like I haven't had a format like this at all. But a lot of what this comes down to is the people behind the scenes.
Truth.
Like there's so many people that you need to be introduced to that work really hard to make sure we got the right information, the research team, making sure that things go out on social media and everything. And obviously I think it starts from the top down. People like Charlie Kirk believing in this product. And then you have people like Tyler Boyer, Marina Minas, and then you have Sarah Schmachtenberger. We have everybody on the media team here at TPUSA. It's been absolutely incredible. But I think honestly at this point, I think we have some people behind the scenes. So let's start bringing a few here. Producer Aubrey, Rachel Baker.
Are you
sitting down?
honestly,
Are you sitting down?
let's go. What's going on now?
Where's Braden? Or where's Ruby?
I think we're gonna.
They'll be on. They'll be on.
Okay.
Like you two, like that's why I'm so glad. Obviously, we're the face of the product at times, but you guys just don't get enough credit for what you do. Obviously, a part of the team here, like scripting out the show, making sure we have the right research, and then obviously Rachel too. Like she works on the live feed quite a bit too, and she's making sure this goes out to social media so you can see this every single day.
For people at home, our job is easy. Sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
These guys
putting in work.
Aubrey, Rachel, Kylie, Braden, Ruby. Sorry if I'm missing people. They actually do all of the the heavy lifting. And so, like, you know, whatever accolades you want to give us for, and John also does a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah.
So whatever accolades goes towards all of the people behind the scenes, because if they don't do it, we don't get to sit here and jabber.
It's a team effort for sure. It's been
That's
fun.
it.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Most definitely. I completely agree. It's been such an awesome experience, you know, coming into TPUSA Live.
She's got a microphone.
Oh, she does? We're professional here.
Wow.
Listen, this used to be my job. This used to be my job for a little bit, okay? We got the mics down. Don't you worry. But no, it's been an awesome opportunity. I think Braden, Ruby, you guys should come on out.
Yeah, everybody that's behind the scenes here.
Come on out here.
There we go. Ian from the Visual Impulse team too, like the production company that we work with to help put this on. You should see this guy running back and forth. Making sure we got these jib shots and then making sure we look pretty because it's not easy for a couple guys like us. They put a filter on.
It's funny you're saying that because I was literally just thinking to myself, it really is easy to write for people like you guys. You know, when you show up every day, ready to come on this show, your job is hard as well. And it's such an honor to be able to write for you guys and figure out these things and just really put it all together and put on an awesome show. It downright would not be possible without every single person around this couch right now.
Well, we appreciate you guys very much, and seriously, round of applause for all you guys behind the scenes. Everybody on the VI team, Terrell, Ian, Chad, Cade, Jeff, Parker. This has been awesome. It's been a great 100 episodes. Get ready for the next 100. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth's speech from AmericaFest next. See you tomorrow.
Welcome to our first ever political correctness and inclusivity training. First off, safety. Just want to make sure that everyone here is jabbed, right? Just kidding, none of my business. So I'm Dylan, I'm your HR rep. A little bit about me. I'm a white man, and I'm so sorry if that makes any of you uncomfortable. On to the first order of business today. We're going to be talking about diversity. And Josh, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Donde está la biblioteca? I'm from Colorado. I learned that from Dora.
Okay, second order of business. This is a mental health friendly workplace. Yes, Alex.
If we're really a mental health friendly workplace, what are we doing about the suicide rate of the birds? Because I saw 2 dead birds in the parking lot yesterday.
Alex, shut up.
Yeah, there's been a really big disregard for the bird lives ever since people in the office started sharing the birds are not real meme. Birds are definitely real. The government's putting chips in their brain, which is making them self-destruct and kill themselves, and we have to be talking about the real issues, or what are we doing here at all? Bird lives matter.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
That's what BLM stands for.
That's not what it stands for.
She brings this up every time.
Why is Mitchell in a Pope costume?
Why are the snacks always feel like they seriously.
I think this went really well. All in all, this is a great place to work, and we're becoming more politically correct every single day.
What's up, everybody? Something else.
The floor's shaking. How we all doing? I figured I'd do a little Merry Christmas for you tonight. How about that? It is so awesome to see all of you. God bless you. You know, we just finished a show on Fox Nation called All Access, and what I couldn't stop thinking and stop talking about is the generational impact that a movement like this has. Who knows where you'll be in 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, but look out 20 to 30 years from now, when the turning point generation has its turn to turn our country back to what it really represents. God bless all of you. And you know, I give a lot of speeches, and I'm always reminded, I went to a small Baptist church in Minnesota when I was growing up, and we had a new pastor. I was like 10 or 11 years old when he showed up. And he walked up to the pulpit, and he had a master's in communication. And he said, I was always taught to immediately try to relate to the audience. How do I relate to the audience? My pastor said. And the Minnesota North Stars was our hockey team at the time, and they were in the Stanley Cup. And I'll never forget as a kid, and he unveiled the North Stars jersey over the pulpit. And I was like, this is the coolest dude I've ever seen. And I immediately connected to him. And so I've been recently given speeches in Seattle, yes, Seattle, in South Dakota, in North Carolina, on the East Coast. And I always try to think, what could you say that would unite audiences in Seattle, South Dakota, North Carolina? And I'm always left saying, it's just, let's go Brandon. It always seems to connect. But like I said, I'm so grateful to be here and to be out of New York City, where they literally burned the Fox News Christmas tree to the ground. We rebuilt it right away, but it's reminiscent of what the left truly is and what they truly represent. It is a complete dismantling, a complete burning down of the things that have made Western civilization, our Judeo-Christian values, and America special in the first place. That's their goal. Deconstruct, dismantle, burn it down. Whether it's Christmas, Jesus Christ in Christmas, whether it's the 4th of July, whether it's Thanksgiving, anything that represents traditional values or America being great is truly under assault. And I want to talk briefly, and I know I'm the last one of the day, so I'm between you and a beer if you're over 21. I know that. I realize that. But I want to talk a little bit about at home and then a little bit about abroad and what happened in Afghanistan as someone who served there and what it means for us and our nation. But first at home. If you look at our moment, we're in a COVID-16-19 moment is what I'd call it. Because of COVID and the lockdowns and the Zoom screens, parents have been brought into the classrooms of their kids, the teaching of their kids, and they've seen that curriculum. If you watch Fox and Friends Weekend, it's a good show, right? I love working with Rachel and with Will, and if you know, Rachel has 9 kids in the traditional math way, and I like to say I have 7 kids the Common Core math way. Sort of a different sort of an addition. We have a wonderful blended family of 7. In fact, they're all here. Can I get a shout out from the Hegseth kids? There we go. I told them I would give them a shout out. You know, what Tucker said, what other speakers have been talking about, and by the way, my lovely bride, Jenny. Sorry, babe. What Tucker said about our kids and our kids being the absolute center of what we pass on was spot on. Ultimately, it's the only legacy that we leave. And with the COVID-16-19 moment, we were all smacked in the face with the reality and the ideology that our kids are being taught. And for a lot of people, even apolitical people, they thought, where did this come from? How did we get here? Is this just a recent phenomenon? And what I want all of you to know, what you already know, is that it's a much deeper, darker process and plot that unfolded to get where we are in our classrooms. You see, this audience out here, I would consider you guys the survivors. You are the survivors of progressive education in America, almost regardless where you went to school. Unless you were homeschooled, or you went to a Christian classical school or a very certain sort of schooling. I heard a shout out for that. We are all of us, products of a progressive educational system. Not just public schools, which are known as government schools. That's what they are. They're government schools. But private schools, elite private schools, even most Christian schools and Catholic schools are largely progressive institutions, whether they know it or not. You are the survivors of those. I survived, but barely, careening around for years. What we don't want is to create survivors who are graduating alongside zombies who have been indoctrinated by those institutions, who then later, when they get mugged by reality, might become more conservative, but we can't make that gambit or risk that at all. What I'm doing, one of the things I'm working on for Fox Nation, which is so honored to be sponsoring and showing AmericaFest to the world. Turn around and wave to Fox Nation if you want to, right back there. Streaming all of this live, bringing it to the massive audience of the Fox News channels. We want people to know what Turning Point's doing, what Charlie Kirk is doing, what's being built here. You absolutely have to know what it is. Because the progressive plot to take over America is over 100 years in the making. And at Fox Nation, I've got a series coming out next month. It's called The Miseducation of America. It took us about a year to film it, dozens of guests. It's a 5-part series about the 100-year progressive takeover of American education. And when I started the project, like you maybe thought, you know, the 60s were radical, the hippies became the professors, and they took over the universities, and then we got all that sideways anti-American content in our colleges, and now it's sort of starting to trickle down into high schools. Hogwash. That's just scratching the surface of what the progressives wanted to do. And these progressives they're the same socialist Marxist types that they faced in Europe. They're ultimately secular humanists. They reject God completely. That's the core of their project. They reject God completely. They believe in human utopia, that we can be perfected through man and government action. They don't believe in our sinful nature, that we're fallen in need of redemption, which all of us are, myself most of all in this room, in need of a savior. They reject all of that completely, the Judeo-Christian background. And instead, they want to install a system that can control and create a generation that will be compliant and complacent for their schemes, which are always unpopular because they don't work. And they make people's lives more miserable. The road to serfdom is a tactic and a real approach, and that's what they want. Do you ever wonder how Prohibition came about? You know, Prohibition was passed. Alcohol was banned in the United States of America through a constitutional amendment. You know what it takes to pass a constitutional amendment? That's a massive movement you have to build. A generation, I gotta make a long story short, but a generation before alcohol was banned, anti-alcohol curriculum was inserted into 3rd grade classrooms. The left knows exactly where to go. They knew they had to create a monopoly on public government education if they wanted to create future electorates who would fall for their schemes. And the first thing they knew they had to do, it's not the agenda that they put into the curriculum. By the way, it's not just the curriculum, it's the pedagogy, it's the way the teachers teach. They hide it out of the curriculum and then they teach the teachers to teach a certain way. It wasn't what they inserted, it's what they removed. And the first thing the progressives knew they had to remove, number 1, was God. They knew they had to remove God from the classroom. They targeted it as our central strength for free people, and they built an entire schooling system around doing just that. Names like Horace Mann, names like John Dewey, names like Herbert Marcuse, names like that, Gramsci, all of which built schemes to do that. And then they built school systems to do just that. So just a small portion of what they did. Have you ever heard of the Gary Plan? Most people haven't. I hadn't heard about it till our project started. The Gary Plan was started in the early 20th century, early 1900s, in Gary, Indiana. By the way, Gary, Indiana, today, which was a manufactured town, today one of the most rundown towns in America, indicative of what the left does. Everything they destroy, everything they touch, they destroy. The Gary Plan, simply put, was the first time we introduced the bell ringing in school, was the first time we introduced a lot of new teaching techniques, and the first time, ultimately, that God was removed out of the classroom. I mean, the Bible was in classrooms across America for the 18th and 19th century, in every single classroom. It was the water in which we swam. We understood those basic values. They cohered us together as citizens in this country. We were still a tolerant nation, still a diverse nation with different viewpoints, but we shared that narrative. They said for the first time to parents, you know what we're going to do? We're still going to do that God thing, but we're going to do it on your own time off campus. So we're still for God, but it's going to be over here. And then they transported that plan and took it to New York City. Where did they take it in New York City? Largely into Columbia University. which is what? The largest teachers' college in America, where the teachers get taught. How do we know all this? Because the progressives talked about it. They wrote about it. In the New Republic, which was the premier progressive magazine of the time, they debated, how do we get God out? How do we remove it? Because if we don't remove God, we can't advance our schemes. They knew if they removed God, they had to replace it with something, though. And this is a long story short, so I hope you watch the film when it comes out. They knew they had to replace it with. You know what they replaced God with? The flag. Staggering for us to hear, because I revere the flag. Absolutely. I fought with it on my shoulder, would die for it. They replaced it with something called the Bellamy Salute. Francis Bellamy was a socialist. He wrote the Bellamy Salute, which was put into all of our classrooms across America, and it was the original Pledge of Allegiance. Except the original Pledge of Allegiance didn't have "Under God" in it. "Under God" was added by Eisenhower when we were fighting the godless communists in the Cold War. As it should be there. But they knew if you take God out of the classroom, you can't just say God's out. You need to replace it with a new allegiance. And that allegiance was to the flag. I'm glad we have allegiance to the flag. But why are we now seeing the left turn on the flag, turn on the anthem, turn on the pledge, turn on 1776? Because they never cared about the flag. It was always about an interim step to get to control. And the flag was the word democracy was the way in which they moved in that direction. And so today, with the flag having served its purpose, now they want to burn the flag. Now they want it to be 1619 as our founding date across the board. Something like critical race theory, which showed up in our classrooms, or at least mugged us during this moment. Where did it come from? Critical theory. Critical theory came from a bunch of Marxists who fled Hitler and went to Columbia University. Started teaching critical theory. And why did they decide as Marxists not to use the economic argument that Marxists usually use? Because they believed our Achilles heel in America was our history on race. Every American knows we have a sinful past as it pertains to racial relations in our country. They wanted to exploit that rather than move past it in order to divide us. At the same time, the Supreme Court did it to work, banning prayer, banning Bible reading, even silent prayer in schools. Then you got the teachers' unions. Teachers' unions show up. Do you know the teachers' unions in America, the NEA, used to be a teachers' association that would pass out pamphlets of traditional Shakespeare and Bible verses? The National Education Association used to be a conservative organization until JFK. He did a lot of good things, but he also allowed for public sector unions. So the NEA becomes a public sector union and ultimately becomes radicalized by Marxists, as does the AFT, both of which were associated with John Dewey. Who was the first president that the NEA, the teachers' unions, ever endorsed? Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was the first presidential candidate the teachers' unions ever endorsed. And then what did Jimmy Carter turn around and do for those teachers' unions? He created the Federal Department of Education. And guess what? The president of the NEA at the time said, without the NEA, there would be no Department of Education. Then we couldn't abolish the Department of Education, even though Reagan tried, so they federalized education. And they took federal government control of education. All the way down to what we see under Obama from Common Core, to what we see in the erosion of the SAT, which used to be about reasoning, isn't anymore. We say the math is racist, the test is racist. All as an attempt to tear down the structures that celebrate excellence, that celebrate God, that celebrate our country. I tell you all of that not to depress you. I prefer applause to depression. No, I'm not trying to tell you to applaud. That's not a Jeb Bush moment. Not to depress you, but you have to understand the depth of what the left has done, what they've tried to target, to understand how resolute we have to be, how determined we have to be to take it back. If we don't take back the classroom, first of all, God and church and family, it's all way more important. Those 7 souls are way more important to me. Molding their lives is really important to me. But my mom went to the school board of my public elementary school at the time and fought against new self-esteem curriculum back in the 1990s. Guess what? She pulled me out of class. Great. But did it change anything? Nothing changed. I applaud what the people at the school board in Loudoun County, Virginia have done, and the election of Glenn Youngkin. It's amazing. But give it 2 years with the teachers' unions in charge, coming right back. Unless we have the positions, unless we run for those positions, and unless we take the educational system back. And that is ultimately it is vouchers and school choice, educational tax credits, giving every American the opportunity to go where they want to get an education. We have to break the monopoly on government schools, which are propagandizing the next generation. I have a progressive education, you do too, and you don't even know it because they hide it. And social studies is an invented set of studies by Marxists who wanted us to look at human nature in a totally different way. It's not how it used to work. So as conservatives, as patriots, I urge you to look at how you were educated, how your kids are educated, how your grandkids are educated, and be as proactive about that as you are about anything else. Otherwise, you're undoing 16,000 hours. That's how many hours our kids are in government schools from K through 12. 16,000 hours of indoctrination. Do you want to come home and have to deprogram them every night? How about you send them to a school that reinforces what you believe, and then you fortify them when they come home? And then you get patriots and capitalists. Abraham Lincoln said the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation becomes the philosophy of government in the next. That is what we're getting right now. We let them do it. Conservatives fought for free markets, we fought communists, we fought Islamists, and then they said, we'll take the classroom, please, because we know that's how you mold the next generation. I'm a huge advocate, unabashedly, of classical Christian schools that go back to the basics, that prepare kids. It's a real liberal arts education, liberal meaning liberated minds. It's not about closing people off. It's about exposing them to all worldviews and then how to rightly think, how to be wise. When's the last time you heard the word wisdom or virtue in a classroom? We used to use those words all the time. And look at what the founding generation produced for us. Where are those men? Where are those women today? I think there are a few in this audience. I really do. And that gives me a lot of hope. If you walk away from this speech with anything, get focused on education, because without it, you can affect your family, and that's important. But the families that aren't involved in politics and aren't watching that are swimming through this system, and they're swimming in only one direction. And it's our job to break that stranglehold of government. I only got a minute and a half to talk about Afghanistan. I promised I would for a second. It is a sin what was done to our country and the reputation of our nation, what happened to those men. I don't have to tell you what it means when you leave a terror state behind with thousands of our own citizens behind and $85 billion of equipment, what that means, just brass tacks. But the credibility of the United States of America amongst our allies, those of which are willing to fight, which are actually not very many. In fact, I wore a NATO patch on my shoulder when I was there as part of a NATO mission, and it said ISAF, International Security Assistance Force. We joked around and said it actually meant I saw Americans fighting. Because there were 50 flags in the headquarters, but there were only 1 or 2 countries actually slinging bullets. America's one of the few places actually still willing to fight. We actually need to teach our allies to find that again if we can. But it's our enemies who learn from this. It's China, it's Russia, it's Islamists of the future who see a weakened America and they believe it is their time to move. But I look out at this audience and I see the future of our country. I am absolutely motivated by you. I want my 7 kids, their butts in these seats in about 5 years. God bless you all. Thank you, AmericaFest. Thank you so much. You're the best. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
How much does the earth cost? I'm gonna buy the entire earth.
Hey, it's John Root. Don't go anywhere because coming up next on TPUSA Live, Alex Clark brings you a brand spanking new episode of Politics covering a new lawsuit against Alec Baldwin, a potentially sinister twist in the death of Bob Saget, weirdos attacking Candace Owens, and so much more pop culture without the propaganda. Next on Politics.
I'm not lazy. I just don't feel like doing anything. Selected participation.
What are you conserving with those legs showing like that?
Sweep the leg.
Alec Baldwin is being sued by Helena Hutchins' family with a wrongful death lawsuit after he shot her to death on a film set. New bombshell emerges about Bob Saget's death. You are not going to believe who Julia Fox was allegedly friends with because, well, of course. And then the big story today is that a small group of lunatic conservatives believe Candace Owens is an open and proud pedophile. It's a 5 orange juicy day, baby. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Politics. Finally, a little accountability for Alec Baldwin after he accidentally shot and killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Her family is now suing Alec in a wrongful death lawsuit. According to the Daily Mail, Helena's family alleges that Baldwin had refused training for the kind of gun draw that he was doing when he accidentally shot Hutchins. Yeah, that doesn't shock me. Celebrities are always acting like they know absolutely everything, but people like Alec couldn't be more out of touch. And now his arrogant stupidity cost a woman her life.
Answer any questions about the investigation. I can't. Okay. It's an active investigation in terms of a woman dying. She was my friend.
Keeping the lawsuit news coming, Bob Saget's family has filed a lawsuit to block release of records from his death investigation after the autopsy showed Bob's head trauma was so severe, it was equivalent to being hit in the head with a baseball bat or falling 30 feet.
Okay, look, I'm gonna tell you something, but you gotta keep it a secret, all right? I told Tommy what a big fan Stephanie is, and he agreed to stop by her party after school today.
Dad, Stephanie's gonna go nuts!
I know. Am I the baddest dad a kid ever had?
You were until you said that.
Is something amiss, or is it simply a grieving family wanting to protect their loved one's photos from the autopsy being made public? Just a reminder, the talk screen was negative. No matter what, this story will always be sad. I just didn't think it would turn, so dark and with all this mystery.
Still no way I'm wearing a bathing suit in front of my friends.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Why do you like your friends?
Because they're nice and we have fun together and we do stuff for each other.
Not because they all look like models.
No.
Maybe that's because deep down inside you know that how a person looks on the outside isn't nearly as important as who they are on the inside. Right?
Right.
Please tell me that you've been watching Inventing Anna on Netflix about the scam artist socialite Anna Delvey.
Well, I was trying to, get my loans for my $40 million for the Anna Delphi Foundation. I like to call it ADF. So when I went to the bathroom, I went, I had to defecate. And there was no toilet paper. And I was not going to miss out on an important meeting because people don't realize that even important, young, beautiful girls have to take a too.
Well, Anna Delvey, whose real name is Anna Sorokin, says that her and Julia Fox are friends and that they became friends after Anna got out of jail. Julia went on a clubhouse room that Anna was hosting, apparently wasn't judgmental, and now I guess they're working on a secret project together. Why am I not surprised? They're perfect for each other. Befriending a identity theft and scam artist seems very on brand for someone like Julia who's into knocking off Kim Kardashian.
What is a muse? I mean, I was Josh Safdie's muse when he wrote Uncut Gems. Right.
Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems. Uncut Gems.
Brace yourself for this asinine story. Candace Owens is being accused of being a pedophile because, wait for it, her show account posted a picture of her eating pizza.
Pizza! P-I-C-C-A.
There is nothing that makes me want to fling myself off a bridge more than these fringe psychos on the right. One of the comments on the pic said, "This is sus," and another said Candace should know that her fans are not stupid and they know what this means and that she's done being a fan. These cry wolf pedo people on the right are the equivalent to gender deniers on the left. I hope you know that. Pizza is pizza. There's cheese pizza and pepperoni pizza. And the weirdest it gets is when people put pineapples on it. If you reach a certain amount of followers on Instagram or get celebrity status, does that mean you're not allowed to eat it anymore? You're in a cult! Wake up! You're literally ruining the conservative movement with these insane and baseless accusations. Pizzagate was debunked, okay? Candace Owens is a pedophile? Give me a break.
You are on crack. All right? And not the good kind.
Look, why don't you come with me, little girl, on a pop culture rewind? You know that song? It's like an oldie. Let's see what happened this week in pop culture history. In 1982, rock legend Ozzy Osbourne was arrested for peeing on the Alamo.
I was legless with a bottle of Courvoisier in my hand at 9 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to take a pee, so I find this old wall and I've got this green evening dress on. I'm standing there having a leak. And this guy goes mental, this deputy marshal or whatever. There he is! And I was dressed in one of my wife's green evening dresses, urinating up the fucking Alamo.
Then 10 years later this week in 1992, serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer was sentenced in Milwaukee to life in prison after he murdered and dismembered 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991.
Why are you coming on?
I really want to tell parents about what I think they should look for in rearing their children.
You could help a lot of people. What was an incident early on? Something about, I'm trying to remember the book, Dead Animals or something?
We found out that he had been collecting at the age of 12 to 14, you know, when your hormones are raging, puberty. He was collecting dead animals, roadkill, riding around the rural roads and collecting them in bags.
I'm glad I didn't go through puberty, or else I may have ended up just like Jeffrey. This week in 2005, YouTube.com was launched, and the first video ever published on the site was called Me at the Zoo, and it has over 221 million views 16 years later. The creator, who goes by Jawed, literally J-A-W-E-D, actually recently updated the description of this video and appears to be incredibly based. Go see for yourself.
All right, so here we are in front of the elephants. Cool thing about these guys is that they have really long fronts, and that's cool. And that's pretty much all there is to say.
2010 this week, Tiger Woods admitted to having several affairs. I remember every day for months, this was the main thing every single entertainment news outlet was talking about. I would be getting ready for school and listening to the radio, and I was so sick of this stupid story.
Here it comes. Oh my goodness. That's heartbreak.
Wii golf was better anyways. And that's what happened this week in pop culture history. Ooh, you know what happens tonight, don't you? At 9 p.m. Eastern, you'll find out who the guest is this week on The Spillover. And then at midnight Eastern, the new episode drops on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Here's your hint. There are 2 guests with 2 incredible stories and insight into a very liberal industry that every chick is obsessed with. Actually, one more hint. At the beginning of the year, I said this is the year of blank. And that is what this episode is about. Do you know? Are you a real conservative? If you appreciated the 5 orange juiciness of today's episode, you better like it. It's the least you can do. What do you think about these accusations against Candace and then Bob Saget's family wanting to keep info surrounding his death private? DM this episode to someone who is a big Candace Owens fan. Tell them to go defend her in the comments, and please tap that save button. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's pop culture without the propaganda every single day. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Poplitics. Support Poplitics, the first ever conservative pop culture daily show, by subscribing to our channel, turning on notifications, and of course, hitting the thumbs up. Also, our main home is on Instagram. Seriously, just trust me, that's where the real magic happens. Follow us there at Poplitics.